Welcome back, everybody. President Obama, he created a firestorm back in June when he announced an executive order that gave hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants who came to this country as children the ability to apply for deportation and work permits for a 2-year window. Program doesn't grant legal residency or a path to citizenship. It's been called by many kind of a mini DREAM Act. Now, the full DREAM Act, that would grant legal residency. In order to qualify, the young illegal immigrants must have been brought to this country as kids, meaning minors here, and must have completed some college or served in the military. The DREAM Act, first introduced back in 2001, bipartisan at the time, but so far has failed to pass both houses of Congress. Well, beyond the politics, interesting bedfellows, if you will. A new report released this week highlights the broad support the DREAM Act enjoys based not on the ethics or morality of it, but on its capacity to kickstart our economy. Now, the report shows that if the DREAM Act were passed, about $330 billion and about 1.5 million jobs would be added to the nation's economy over 2 decades. It would add, the report says, more than $5 billion in state and federal household income tax revenue. And that new report was released by the Center for American Progress and the Partnership for a New American Economy, an organization created by New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and News Corp CEO Rupert Murdoch. And joining us now to break down the report, Chief Policy Advisor to His Honor, John Feinblatt. John, thank you very much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Rich, glad to talk to you.
You know, the idea, first of all, that you're going to get John Podesta, Mike Bloomberg, and Rupert Murdoch to agree on something is itself pretty notable. What's been the reaction since the report's come out?
Look, I think the problem with immigration in general is that it's talked about at the extremes. One hand, people talk about border security, the other, they talk about amnesty. But what they ought to be talking about, and I think what the American public actually wants to hear about, is how it's going to help the economy. That's what they expect from Washington. And when it comes to immigration, it's really a no-brainer. The Partnership for New American Economy, which, as you said, Bloomberg and Murdoch and others put together, was to try to make the point that immigration is good for the American economy. We've come out with lots of reports, including the one we're talking about today. Our first one showed that 40% of Fortune 500 founders were immigrants or the children of immigrants. We found earlier this year that 28% of new businesses were started by immigrants, even though they only represent 13% of the population. And then yesterday with the Center for American Progress, we showed that the DREAM Act would actually help boost the economy. One of the smartest things that we could do, which would be of no cost to the American public, would be to pass the DREAM Act. Stop making it a political football. Start talking about dollars and cents.
You know, as people know who watch the show, John, you're preaching to the choir here. I think this is a good thing from both an ethics standpoint, a moralistic one, and also I think it's good for the economy. But I want to play devil's advocate, and I'm going to give you some of the criticisms of this, and I'll let you respond. Opponents of this say,
sure,
hey, in short, there's going to be huge taxpayer costs. They're going to be born youngsters. They're going to flock to colleges. They're going to pay in-state tuition rates. The costs are going to go up. Is there any fact to that?
Well, let's start with the fact that these are kids who are already here. So it's not like the DREAM Act is bringing people here. These are people who are already here. And what you want to do is have them help drive the economy by having these people have above-board jobs where they pay taxes and earn higher wages, as well as get a college degree, because what we know is that people with college degrees make more money, they pay more taxes, they consume more goods, and they create jobs. So that's good for the American public, not bad for the American public.
The second criticism is that when you look at the total numbers that you laid out there, both in terms of jobs, in terms of economic gain and revenue generated, those are spread out over 2 decades. And critics say the total number is trivial, and conversely, it's going to take jobs away from the American workers, American-born citizens, and both the native wages here and jobs are going to fall the more you have more immigrants now legal in the workforce that'll be competing for those same jobs.
Well, look, I've heard the criticism that the net gain isn't big enough. Well, I can tell you in New York it's going to create 50,000 new jobs over 20 years, and I'll take those 50,000 new jobs. If some other state doesn't want them, let those people come to New York. We'll take them in a heartbeat. And in terms of competing, look, all economists agree that the real competition for jobs and where you see deep pockets of unemployment are really at the lower rungs, the lower educational rungs, the low skilled rungs. And the DREAM Act does just the opposite. What it does is help people climb the ladder of American success rather than stay at the bottom of American success, where there's real competition and high degrees of unemployment are in among people who don't have a college degree.
You know, finally, John,
yeah.
the message argument of this, and this one comes, you've heard this before, this is from Senator Vitter, a Republican from Louisiana, who says, amnesty and economic incentives only exacerbate the problem of illegal immigration. And while this bill, the DREAM Act, is disguised as an educational initiative, it's simply another measure that offers a path to citizenship for illegals in this country and allows in-state college tuition for illegal immigrant students. In reality, this would only allow illegal aliens up to the age of 35 to be eligible to receive amnesty and qualify for federal student loans. You've heard this before. What's the answer?
Well, first of all, let's remember this isn't a program of amnesty. There are strict requirements that are levied on dreamers. But let's really get to the heart of the issue. The heart of the issue is that this has always been a bipartisan bill, and it's only recently that this has become a political football. And there are legions of Republicans, even today, Mark Rubio, Kay Bailey Hutchinson, stalwarts of the Republican Party have wanted to pass some DREAM legislation. And Romney, I think, just today or yesterday said that he would honor the executive order that Obama signed and that he would come up with a quick solution to the immigration problem. So, all in all, look, it's the right thing to do, it's ethically right, but more important, in this day and age where people are hurting, it's the economically smart thing to do. I don't think any of us should be looking askance or questioning a program that at no cost will put $329 billion new dollars into the U.S. economy. That's what we all want.
And just as a reminder here, we're talking about people who came to this country as children through no act of their own here. They're already here. This just lifts the veil here and treats them like what they are for all intents and purposes, kids trying to achieve the American dream. John, I appreciate a few minutes. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Rich.
All right, let's bring in our panel on this, and along with Dominic and Andrew, we're kind of to be joined by Jessica Pratt, Republican Strategist and Vice President at NLO Strategies. You know, I just get the sense that, you remember when gay marriage came out as usual, it's a Joe Biden slip that got the thing going, but now it's like, okay, no big deal. You know, it's not going to be a campaign issue. I remember when he said it, oh my gosh, how much is going to hurt the president? It's not really an issue. I just get the feeling 6 months from now, a year from now, this DREAM Act, people are going to be like, yeah, no biggie. And I think Republicans, if you look at the demographics, would probably be the ones that benefit the most from this if they got behind it. You buy that or no?
Well, I thought it was a very bizarre statement that President Obama called his biggest failure of his administration immigration, when our economy is the, you know, in the straits that it's in.
Okay, you got that in. Very nice.
I think we have failed in addressing this problem in a comprehensive way. This DREAM Act is a piece of it. Obviously, we have to deal with the kids that were brought here. It's not their fault that they were brought here illegally, but to just do one sliver of the pie isn't going to solve the overall problem of illegal immigration.
Remember when George W. Bush tried to pass comprehensive immigration reform, he couldn't get it through his own party. And things have only gotten more toxic and certainly non-bipartisan, okay, in Washington since then. Why wouldn't, listen, Romney, to his credit, Andrew, today, at least got ahead of something for once, and he reversed his position.
Consider 10 weeks later ahead of it.
Fair enough. But 2.5 months ago, he was saying the opposite than getting behind the DREAM Act, which he is now.
Yeah, and so I don't think it'll be that big an issue the rest of this campaign, but you know, I don't think the DREAM Act is going anywhere as an issue because it does smack of amnesty. While I disagree with this viewpoint and I support the DREAM Act, I think to a lot of people it smacks of amnesty the same way that comprehensive immigration reform would, in the way that it lets people jump the line ahead of people who have been waiting here and trying to follow the rules. And as soon as you get an issue ad from a Hispanic family who says, you know, we've been waiting for 7 years to try to get our citizenship. You're going to let this guy in who snuck across the border?
But if you look at who got behind this, Rupert Murdoch. Okay,
isn't it amazing?
And you got the Center for American Progress. There's the left
We
as
have
you get,
bipartisanship.
and then you got Bloomberg in the middle, and they're saying, forget the right and the wrong, the morality. This is good economics for America. All right, this creates jobs. This creates tax revenue here. This keeps some of the best and brightest minds instead of going back over. It's not just across the border in Mexico. It's coming that can actually do these high-tech jobs right now that we wouldn't lose. To me, all of a sudden, that's a different argument than you're not going to send little Pedro back over when he came here at 2.
I don't know, Richard. I wish that you were correct and I was wrong in this situation, but I think when you bring up the argument of jobs, and it's a good thing that it'll help the economy, but remember, those are projections based on a 20-year period.
Yep.
And if you're talking about jobs, you're going to have Americans, the argument saying, wait a minute, they're taking jobs that I could have.
Even though at least the report says that's not the case.
I do think there are a lot of legislators that are looking to solve this problem and find common ground on it. But you have, like I said, you have to look at it from the whole standpoint. This is talking about just a small piece of the economy. But let's talk about, you want to talk about the economy and the impact illegal immigration has on the economy. It's a much bigger issue than the jobs and revenue that this might create. It puts burden on our healthcare. It puts burden on our school systems. I mean, this is a major issue, and we need to be ready to come to the table and deal with the people that are already here.
But this is specifically kids who came here. The kids either have gone to some college or served in the military. We're not talking about somebody that's going to live off the welfare dole here. We're talking about people who are already contributing and productive. I know you're with me. I'm just saying this should be a political no-brainer that everybody gets behind, even if they don't care about the kids.
Say that
and they
in
just
Arizona.
care about
So
exactly.
Right.
I think you can.
But it's
Really?
It's too easy to stir up anger by citing things like amnesty or they're taking our jobs.
And they did it at the wrong time of the year, too.
All right, I want to switch gears here. When we come back after the break, you probably saw this today, whether you picked up the Times, Wall Street Journal, any major daily. J.P. Morgan Chase being sued for fraud. I'm talking a big number here by the New York Attorney General. We'll sit down with the AG himself. Stay with us.